Greetings. I'm Pastor Blaine with another It's Almost Sunday devotional. Last week, I started a new little series here for the season of Lent, away from what we've been doing of looking at one of the scriptures for Sunday and talking about some of the spiritual disciplines that we might use during this season of Lent so that we can better examine ourselves and be open to God, open to the Spirit working in us, preparing us for Holy Week and Easter. Last week we talked about fasting and self-denial. Today I'd like to talk about the topic of solitude. Solitude is something there that quite frankly seems pretty odd to a lot of people. Maybe it's even a bit scary. We don't always like to be with ourselves. Very often it's the last thing we want to do. But solitude has some very real benefits, and there is some real value to the practice of solitude as relates to spiritual matters, as relates to our faith. Solitude is something that we see that Jesus practiced. If you read through the Gospels, you'll see that regularly Jesus would go away for times of prayer, and very often he didn't take anybody with him, so we pretty well assume that, he was by himself. It was solitude. But there are several times in Scripture where it tells us very specifically that Jesus went away to a solitary place, and it makes it very plain and very clear that he was by himself for a time. The first one that we come across is referenced in Mark chapter 1 verse 35 and also in Luke chapter 4 verse 42. Now this time is not far into Jesus' ministry. He's been baptized, he comes out of the wilderness, he starts to minister, he's dealing with crowds, healing, teaching, and boom, almost right away, he goes to spend some time apart in a solitary place. Later on, we see Jesus in Matthew 14 following the death of John the Baptist, following the news of the death of John the Baptist. He goes off to a solitary place. He needs some time. And then when he comes back to feeding the 5,000, and right after that, he goes off to a solitary place. So we see a number of times and places that Jesus very clearly and intentionally is going off to a solitary place. What is it that we do when we go off to a solitary place? It's not to go off to a solitary place so you can get things done on your to-do list. It's not to bang out the taxes or to get the house cleaned or finish up an assignment for work. Going off to a solitary place as relates to spirituality, as relates to our faith, is a spiritual practice whereby we remove ourselves from others for a period of time so that we have the space and there's not the distraction, that we can attend to our heart, we can attend to God. Oftentimes when we are with other people can be very distracting. We like them and it's great and we should be present to other people, but sometimes you just need some space to clear your head, to clear your heart, to process and to consider what is going on inside. Practicing solitude is something there that could be a matter of maybe an afternoon or a morning, or some people might go away if you have the means to do that and spend time for a day, 2 days, 3 days, to spend some time in solitude with God. The point is that what we're doing is that we are removing ourselves from the normal routine, from the normal activities, practices, and behaviors, so there's space for us and space with God. This is something there that can be a little bit scary when you first do it. You might go through all kinds of emotions and feelings and want to leave almost right away, but it's something that if we stick with it, if we give it time for God to speak to us, work in us and through us, very often people will find themselves reaping great spiritual benefits, finding themselves to find a place of peace deep inside. Maybe there becomes answers to questions that they have. Maybe there's answers to questions they didn't know that they have. It can be a very revealing thing to spend time alone with God. And it's something that I would encourage you to give a try. Now start off small, be easy on yourself. If you've never done this before, see if you couldn't carve out a space where you have an afternoon or an evening that's just you, and you're not filling that time with the things you would normally do, clean the house, clean the dishes, take care of yard work or anything else, but spending that time with God in some way that turns your attention, turns your thoughts to God, and lets you be open to how God might speak. Give that a try. Pray about it, pray through it, pray after it, process it. If you need, talk to somebody. Share how it went for you. Give me a call. We'll sit down and have a cup of coffee. But give it a try and see how God might work in you to practice what Jesus practiced. Today I'm not going to close with a prayer, but I'd like to close with the words that Jesus said, inviting his disciples to join him in a time of solitude after feeding the 5,000, from Mark chapter 6, verse 31. Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Think about Jesus saying those words to you. Come with me by yourself to a quiet place and get some rest. God's grace, mercy, and peace be with you.